G'day there, ladies and legends. Mistakes. Bound to happen, helps us grow, can't be experienced by Game Freak. One such mistake was that they had a genderless Pokemon able to learn Attract. Yeah, that's right, today we are talking about Cryogonal. Now, we know that this was a mistake, because in the latest generations, Cryogonal cannot learn Attract. To be honest, I get it, but it makes my role as a theorist more difficult. There are just so many ideas when it comes to mistakes. Treating them as intended facts opens the door to wacky and insane theories. And so, if we were to accept that attracting Cryogonal was a mistake, then this video has no real purpose. It's a moot point. But I want to explore the alternative reality. If this was intended from the start, what does this tell us about Cryogonal? Can we connect it to other Pokemon to learn its origin? That's what I want to uncover today on Pokemon Links. Okay, so first I'll spend some time explaining how Attract works, then we'll see what this means for Cryogonal, and then those that stick around will learn its potential origin. Let's begin. Attract and being immobilized by love is kind of weird. Pokemon can't comply with trainers' commands if they're frozen or sleeping, sometimes paralyzed or flinched. Confusion means the Pokemon is trying to comply but is failing. All of these reasons for an ability to do as a trainer commands is physical. Being immobilized by love sure has some physical components to it, but it's mostly psychological ignorance. Consider this. You can force swap a Pokemon 40 times, inflict every kind of status element, feed the Pokemon berries that it hates, and they are still obliged to follow your commands. Yet, being in love allows for that to be overridden. The only other ways for this is when you have an over-leveled traded Pokemon, or maybe using a Truant ability where Slack Off and Slacking just kind of ignore everything. Means to say, love is powerful in the games. Now, Attract requires two Pokemon to be of opposite genders, with only a target being immobilized by love. This is done by manipulating hormones or pheromones of both the user and recipient. First, the user increases their pheromones, not enough to be affected by them, but enough to be a little hot under the collar. The same kind of signal is then transmitted towards the recipient, increasing their pheromone levels as well, but to a higher level. Finally, if the signals are different, aka different genders, the link is established and completed. The target is now immobilized by love, with the trainer occasionally allowing for regular movement. Now, since Attract is learned by virtually every Pokemon for gender, it could be stated that some version of this process is related to breeding. What is fascinating, however, is that this attraction is applicable outside of egg groups. Perhaps egg groups are irrelevant in universe, or perhaps Attract is altered for a more survivability or combat role. In any case, manipulating your target biologically is pretty powerful indeed. Before we move on, the Destiny Knot item would then work by increasing the user of Attract's pheromones via the link made, kind of like a trap. So, what does this mean for a genderless Pokemon? Well, one such Pokemon that uses Attract would still alter pheromone levels and that of the target, but being genderless would mean that the connecting signal is not strong enough or not unique enough. In any case, the attraction link is impossible to establish. When it comes to love, at least biologically speaking, Cryogonal is both unable to love and unable to be loved. It can still attempt to learn or emulate love, but can never truly experience it. Which is sad for sure, but if it helps, it's probably better than being forcibly manipulated into loving or being loved. Such a state means that it may find it hard to love biologically, but that just means that if you were to love it, or it to love you, it would be because of their personality, actions, and thoughts. In a sense, it would allow for a truer love. Overall, while it does suck for Cryogonal, if I had to choose, I would follow a similar approach to love. It's what's on the inside that counts, which makes Cryogonal a pretty good showcase of such a message. It's a shame that it got removed. Okay, now that is out of the way, let's hypothesize the origin of this Pokemon. The Pokédex entries are kinda vague and basic, but we are here to see what other intentions Game Freak might have had for this Pokemon. So, right off the bat, this Pokemon is part of an RPG trope of monsters. You know how the Mimic is a pretty common monster, appearing as loot only to attack? Well, with items resembling Pokemon, Voltorb and Fungus took the role as mimics in the Pokemon world. But another common enemy type that you will see in a variety of RPGs is the Elemental. A being made of a single element, typically to clearly indicate strengths and weaknesses. Now, before Cryogonal, have we had an Elemental design Pokemon? For Earth Elementals, our main choices are Geodude and Claydol. Not quite the kind of vibe, but still noteworthy. For Steel Elemental, I guess Bronzor's kinda there, but the Psychic throws it off, gives it more of a possessed object vibe. The Reggies are Golems, which is close. Sure, they are elemental in nature, but Golems and elementals are not quite the same. The only other noteworthy one is Rotom, but instead of it being an electric elemental, it's more of a ghost, spectre, or poltergeist. You know, more about possessing rather than being, so not quite. After thinking about it for a bit, I managed to find a previous elemental Pokemon. That is, of course, Castform. Think about it, its different forms are the closest we have to a pure elemental design. There is no main body and a small part of the element, they are their element. This is a fire elemental, this is a water elemental, and of course, Castform can learn Attract, so it's a perfect fit. Now how would Castform lead us into Cryogonal? Allow me to explain. Assuming that the major changes in Earth's history are mirrored in the Pokemon world, when the asteroid that wiped out the fossil Pokemon hit, the world was thrown into an ice age. Castform changed into its hail form as it was blizzards and hailstorms all the time. Castform is a weather Pokemon. It is very likely each of its forms are designed to be temporary. Maybe a limit of each form for 5 years can make sense. For example, an extremely long drought would mean that Castform would be in sunny mode for an extended period of time. When it comes to the Ice Age, this isn't weather anymore. Over the next couple 100,000 years, this long-term weather becomes climate. Castform hasn't adapted to such conditions yet, so it being constantly in hail form starts to degrade its DNA to the point where it can't shift back. So I'm saying that Cryogonal is the Ice Age form of Castform. For this to be plausible, we would have to accept that Castform existed with fossil Pokemon or the early Ice Age. So how do we have Castform if they all turned into Cryogonal? It's a bit unclear, but I imagine that the ice that Cryogonal were in would be tested, perhaps to measure the previous climate conditions, and from the Cryogonal DNA, they found a way to replicate it in a lab. Although I said that Castform's DNA has changed, there is a possibility a small amount of it had survived. Think of it as how we humans are 98% similar to monkeys, but are drastically different. From there, Castform were able to be brought back, which isn't too shocking since we have fossil restoration, complete with giving Castform back its gender. We also have Cryogonal, a biological evolution mutation of Castform that is still able to use Attract without having a gender. That is my theory about Cryogonal. As said before, this is likely one big mistake from Game Freak, so there's only a small chance of my ideas being what they were aiming for. But I'd like to hear what you guys think. Is Cryogonal's love life a dream or a nightmare? Could Castform be the ancestor of Cryogonal existing with fossil Pokemon? What do you think about my sketches for Cryogonal cousins? Let me know down below. Thank you for watching.